What's happening, folks? My name is Robbie. I'm a mortgage and finance broker, and today we are judging people's finances again. Okay, I lied. We are not actually judging people's finances this week. This week we are watching Asking Online Millionaires How They Got Rich, which is one of those interesting videos to see how people made their money. Always interesting to see how people make their money, what they do with their money. But this video in particular, because it's online millionaires, I'm quite curious because I want to see how many people are drop shipping, selling courses, and doing Amazon FBA. I can guarantee all three are going to be in this video, I think, or I'm going to look silly if they aren't. I'm trying to streamline these videos, so we're getting straight into the video. Here we go.
Business does over 100 million a year in revenue.
I bring home over $1 million a year.
All online?
All online.
We do about $500,000 every single month.
How much do I make? This is a weird question.
Today we're at
So right off the bat, I think these numbers that people are saying are turnover, not profit. I could be wrong, but one guy said revenue, which is turnover. I think the people who sell courses typically talk turnover as opposed to income or profit. The difference being a lot of online businesses can sometimes have small margins. You could turn over $1 million in a year, but the cost of doing that business was $950,000. So then you've made 50 grand. But it sounds nicer to say, I made $1 million this year. Again, I could be wrong, but one person said revenue. I think a few of them might be talking about revenue rather than income.
an e-commerce conference asking online millionaires how they got rich. Are you comfortable sharing how much you or your businesses make?
We spend like $60 million a year on Amazon.
Funny you asked. I actually just sold my company last year called Skubana. I also one of the early co-founders of the Prosper Show, which we sold I think back in 2018. Still have an e-commerce business today, and I just launched Prophecy. So it's kind of an interesting question where I just sold my company and now I'm just started something new.
How did that feel?
It felt like freedom. Been running this software company for 7 years. I had a lot of family and friends invested in it. To give them a beautiful exit, it's a great thing.
How did you make your first dollar online?
Finding the right product, literally borrowing money to buy 20 of it and selling it on Amazon. So Amazon, at least at the time, was the easiest way to launch anything.
I made my first dollar online actually doing Shopify dropshipping.
Amazon seller and coach, so he ticks both boxes.
It honestly didn't work that great. I lost money overall.
I sold socks. I wouldn't
Amazon seller and coach.
even say I made $1. I made revenue, but it wasn't profitable. Dropshipping, it made sense because you don't have to invest upfront at the end of the day. Little risks, a lot of free courses on Udemy that you can watch, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly what I did to build my first site.
I'll never forget, we launched a new giftable product.
Exited Amazon business.
Sat around with a bottle of champagne, and 3 hours after launch, we sold our first one and we popped the bottle, and it was great. Yeah, I'll never forget it.
That's awesome. How's that feeling?
Unbelievable. I still think about that day as like a highlight. We had a party, we just celebrated. It was unbelievable. And then the sales kept coming, and we're like, oh my God, what have we done?
What were you doing before being your own boss?
I was actually bartending.
What did you do to make the switch?
I got started as an intern at a digital media company that was really focusing on Amazon advertising. It was definitely a quick growing startup. I leveraged that position to connect with a ton of people, start building relationships in the space, and then here we are.
So connections and networking, at least at the beginning, was one of the drivers to what took you to this point here.
100%.
I'm a molecular biologist my whole life. Dave is a pilot. We had no experience in e-commerce or Amazon, but we started learning, found some new products and launched those a few months later, and those took off. And we sold it 2 years later, yeah.
I was working a 9-to-5 job as a construction worker. I was a superintendent every single day, wake up 7 in the morning, get home at 6 at night, just grinding.
I was still in high school.
High school?
Yeah.
Did you go to college?
I did go to college, worked corporate for 3.5 years, doing recruiting and staffing sales. I was making like $200,000 a year. Started my Amazon business because I wasn't fulfilled. COVID blew up
He was making 200 grand a year out of high school. Is that real? Does that happen?
my business, quit and went to the moon.
In 2009, I was on Wall Street and I just got laid off from my job. I had my box with me outside of the Wall Street firm, and my father picks me up. He drives me to the Upper West Side of New York. My apartment was next to a school, and so these kids were just getting out of school with their lunch boxes, and my father said, "Chad, those kids are free and so are you." And that touched my heart. He essentially was like, "Hey, this is a whole new beautiful opening for you. Like, maximize your potential and figure something else that you love," because I really didn't like what I was working on.
What is a tip for someone who is at a job that they hate?
Jump. Don't be afraid. That you truly just need to embrace the fact that, hey, there's so much more to life, and business makes up more time than anything else we do other than sleep potentially. So it's like if you're spending 50% of your time at a place that you hate, that's really draining and gonna ruin your life.
So I think tactically, like reading 4-Hour Workweek changed my life. Coming into yourself, like having like an eat, pray, love moment where you like take a step back from life and say, is this what I want? At least now in my 30s, time is more valuable than anything.
I just heard someone said,
People quit leaders, not companies.
100%.
You don't pick your your job, you pick your boss. I think if you pick the right boss that's going to elevate you and like see you through in your career, you'll be a far greater contributor in the organization. So make sure that they're going to open up the world to you and see you develop and see you grow.
So I was working fully.
Obviously, at the beginning, I did say that I think it's going to be mostly fulfillment by Amazon and drop shipping, the courses, but I mean, the people are still evidently successful business people and they are dishing out good advice so far, so I was half right, but I sort of stand corrected as well, really.
For a nonprofit and making no money. I went from that to starting my own business.
Any advice that you would give your younger self at that point?
Everything that was scary then turned out to be like Mickey Mouse later on. If I could tell my younger self, enjoy it, have certainty, don't react, don't run to instant gratification.
I have shiny object syndrome, and so I was trying so many different ventures. One thing would be successful, and then I'm like, oh, well, I want to try this. And I would just kind of scatterbrained, and it wasn't until I just went 100% all into Amazon that things really started to grow. A lot of people are like, oh, this is a scam, or oh, this doesn't work. The reality is they didn't even spend enough time to actually make it work. They tried too many things, and they don't focus on one thing.
The reason that I'm making this video is I have friends who work in corporate who are very smart, educated, but they're not satisfied and they're trying to make their own money. What do you say to those people, realistically?
So I would go to my wife and be like, tell me all the problems that you have in the house that you wish was different. She's gonna make a list of 30 of them. You're gonna find that 28 of them have already been solved. The 2 that haven't been solved, I try to make a product.
I would say the first thing to do.
I think the problem in my household that my fiancée has is me. I think I'm a problem that needs solved, so I will not be asking her what problems she thinks need solved around the house because they will all stem back from me.
Is to just consume as much content as possible, learn as much as possible. I think there's a lot more free content on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on social, and there's a lot of people you can connect with that will teach you more than you could ever know.
Don't be afraid to pay for knowledge. There's people who have been there before and can help you and guide you along the way.
Find where the super shopper is, find where the problem is, and you build around that.
And how do you validate it?
Actually, one of my friends in the group said that the way he validates a product launch is he'll make the product quickly, he'll sell it for super, super cheap, even at a loss. And he said if people don't even buy it then why will they buy it at a higher price? So he actually validates products by making it great and selling it super cheap in the beginning to see if fish are biting. Bring like 20, 30 friends to your house, do like a taste testing or focus group. What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? But be quick to market, because a lot of people spend like 6 months on their logo, making sure that the color looks nice and buying hats and pencils and stuff, when in reality you need to start selling, failing, learning, adapting, adjusting, and just keep moving forward.
Don't get bogged down.
That's true. There's a lot of people who want to start businesses or do start businesses and they focus so much on making sure the website's designed right, making sure the packaging's right, making sure the logo's correct and absolutely perfect, and they spend less time on the product than everything else. So then why would someone buy your product if you've spent more time on everything else instead of the actual product itself?
Down by analysis paralysis. Don't do product research for 3 years. Just get in the game, get your feet wet. You're gonna make mistakes. Get out and make those mistakes so you can learn and move on. Get selling.
Well, first of all, it's never been easier to start making your own money. The question is like, what's your zone of genius? What are you really, really good at? And what I've seen as a business owner through COVID is that people are moving away from like full-time opportunities into fractional work and taking their passion and using that in a way where they're bringing on multiple different clients and having fun with the work that they're providing. You can do videos, you can do marketing work from anywhere in the world. Double down on like what you really love doing versus just the ho-hum of whatever the corporation's giving you.
How do you figure out what your zone of genius is?
Document your day and figure out what your bucket list is, like things that light you up, and then have a bucket list. Trying to figure out how you can double down on things you love.
I'm a big fan of Amazon for the main reason that you don't need to put a ton of time per se into it.
Is this guy a course seller? I think he was one of the coaches. The reason I say that is everyone else gave advice to some extent, and he's just went straight to get on Amazon, which coincidentally seems to be what he coaches. So the other people's advice seems to be better than his in this instance.
Especially when you're starting to sell, actually. So it makes sense to be able to juggle that while working a corporate job. Now, with that said, I am a firm believer that Amazon, you can learn so many fundamental skills that you can take into any other business. So I'm not the end-all be-all Amazon guy. I've found a lot of passion in helping people through my coaching business now and building systems and structures for that, but I wouldn't have been able to do that with Amazon. So I think Amazon's a great stepping stone. I don't think you need to be passionate about Amazon. I think you'll find passion when you start waking up to like thousands of dollars of sales.
How much money did you start with?
See, I don't think that's true. I don't think money equals passion. You could be really miserable selling whatever, selling books on Amazon, for example. Just because you wake up with $1,000 worth of sales in the morning doesn't mean you're going to be any more passionate about selling books on Amazon. You'll be more motivated to do it because you're making money, but I don't think money equals passion, to be honest. I think people who are passionate about business are then passionate about that $1,000 worth of sales selling books. But that's because they have a passion for business rather than a passion specifically for selling books on Amazon. I would say that trying to match your passion with an income is probably the play. For example, some people go to the gym because they're passionate about it. They're passionate about exercise and lifting weights, doing cardio. And because they're passionate about that and because it's what they're good at, they then decide to become a personal trainer, for example. They have a passion and there's a way to monetize the passion. Personal trainer. I don't know anyone who's passionate about Amazon except Jeff Bezos, personally. But I could be wrong. I don't know that many people who do Amazon FBA. I know a lot of people who have tried it, and I know a lot of people who have failed or broken even and then sacked it. I don't know that many people who have been successful at it, or anyone actually now I think about it.
With $10,000 Canadian.
What made you successful?
I would say number one, having a spiritual practice was a game changer for me. I studied Kabbalah, which is universal spiritual wisdom. Number two, surrounding myself constantly with people who are in my world but do something better than I do. The other thing I make sure.
That's good advice. If you want to be good at something, you want to do well in a certain industry or a certain area of expertise, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room, the most successful person in the room, the wealthiest person in the room. You want to be surrounding yourself with people who are doing the same thing you do or want to do, but better than you. People who are further along in that journey. For example, I'm a member of a mastermind group called This Is Wealth, and it's full of property investors. Some people are beginners, some people don't have any properties, some people like me, one property, maybe two or three. There's other people with 10, 20, 30 properties, and everyone learns from each other. The people with no properties might be able to take a little bit of advice from someone like me with one property or someone with 2 or 3 properties, but those people with 2 or 3 properties are also looking to the people with 10 properties for a little bit of advice and experience. So surrounding yourself with successful people in whatever area you want to be successful in it's like running a race against everyone else but with a rocket on your back. So if you're looking to do well in a certain industry, look to see who's doing well in that industry. See if you can provide them with any help or service or even just a bit of chit chat. Try and get your foot in the door and start to surround yourself with people who are already doing what you want to do.
There is 20% of my time always having free time to talk to the universe, be creative, brainstorm, because if you're burned out, subconsciously you're going to sabotage everything you do. You're always reacting to stuff and you're always going to shrink. You're going to shrink and shrivel.
Probably identifying as being poor.
What was that?
Essentially, I grew up poor. That gave me a certain amount of discipline and anxiety, but also grit that's propelled me forward to want to never be in that situation again.
Interesting, because I hear people say get out of a poor mindset.
I'm not saying that I should forever be identifying as poor, but I'm just telling you that that's a big contributor to my success, is knowing where I've come from and knowing that it's propelling me away from that. And
it's pretty grounding too.
Yeah, it's very grounding. It's very humbling. I've had amazing success, and my wife would say, Chad, why are you always worrying about money? And I'm like, it's just what I grew up with, and maybe that's my Achilles heel.
So are you trying to keep that?
No, I think it's something that I'm constantly working on. How do I come back to some level of peacefulness around that and tranquility?
Incredibly driven, not afraid to fail. When you go out on your own, there's no one to support you when you have the downsides. And when you're in a traditional company, you typically don't hear about all the bad things that happen, but when you're a solopreneur or an entrepreneur, you carry that weight by yourself. But you also realize that the highs are so high that it's completely worth it, and that life's a roller coaster, so you just figure it out and you go with it. Thank you for having me. And cut.
So that was actually better than I expected. I expected it to be plug-in courses and telling people to follow me on Instagram so I can sell you my course on how to do drop shipping, for example. There were a few nuggets of wisdom there, successful people, as well as coaches for Amazon FBA and drop shipping. Now, this is probably condescending, but I feel like the older people in the video had better advice and the younger people didn't have as much substance in what they were saying. I mean, let me know if you disagree, because I could be wrong, but I just felt like the sort of older people in that video had more advice to give and more useful advice to give. For this video, I feel like there might be less positive comments than previous videos we've reacted to, so I'm going to have a quick look and see if there's any funny comments. See what the comments are saying in general. Here's a good one. The top comment: I like how the dropshippers failed at dropshipping and then became coaches. That's sort of what I was getting at there. They didn't say that they'd done anything extremely successful in drop shipping, but now they're coaches. At the beginning they did talk about turnover, but as I mentioned, turnover doesn't equal profit. It doesn't equal cash in the bank. So this guy makes a good point that the drop shippers failed at drop shipping and then became coaches for drop shipping, which is interesting. To be honest, the comments are surprisingly quite nice. Everyone's talking about how humble everyone is and how inspirational they are. I'm actually starting to wonder, are some of these people bots because they're very generic comments? With regards to the video itself, it's by someone called Brax. The video is good. It's a good video. It's entertaining. If that's the sort of video that you're looking for, it's an entertaining video, but I feel like some of the advice from the people in the video, not from the actual person who made it, is not very substantial. But it's a 9-minute video on YouTube. It's not Harvard Business School. So I suppose you get what you pay for, which is nothing. You don't pay for YouTube, so any advice for free is typically quite good. Anyway, keeping this video short and sweet. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like the video, leave a comment, let me know what you liked, and I will see you next week. Take it easy.